Have you ever felt utterly lost despite possessing maps for everything? Do you carry the weight of countless theories about happiness, yet find yourself perpetually searching for a single moment of genuine joy? Are you armed with data, facts, and expert opinions on how to live, how to love, how to succeed, only to feel a profound disconnect between this vast reservoir of knowledge and the messy, unpredictable, vibrant reality of your own existence? You accumulate information, you categorize experiences, you build intricate mental models of the world and yourself. Yet the more you seem to understand about life, the less you feel truly alive. It's a peculiar form of starvation in the midst of a feast, a deep thirst while standing beside a flowing river. You have the blueprints, the recipes, the guidebooks, but somehow the building remains unbuilt, the meal untasted, the journey untraveled. You might feel a gnawing sense that something fundamental is missing, that you are observing your life through a pane of glass rather than living it fully, viscerally, immediately. What if I told you that the very tools you rely upon for understanding, your intellect, your capacity for abstract thought, your accumulation of knowledge, could, in fact, be the bars of a cage you unknowingly inhabit? What if the relentless pursuit of knowing about reality is precisely what prevents you from knowing reality itself? This isn't an argument against learning, against thinking, against the profound achievements of the human mind. Far from it. It is an unflinching look at a subtle, pervasive trap. The trap of mistaking the map for the territory, the concept for the reality it points to. It is a radical proposition that the path to true understanding, to genuine presence, and to a life lived fully might require a fundamental shift away from the dominance of the conceptual mind. Prepare yourself. This journey will challenge your most deeply held assumptions about knowledge, intelligence, and what it truly means to know anything at all. We are about to explore how the light of understanding can, paradoxically, cast the longest shadow over the very reality it attempts to illuminate. This profound and perhaps unsettling idea finds a powerful voice in the work of philosopher and writer Alan Watts, who drew extensively from the deep wells of Eastern philosophies, particularly Zen Buddhism and Taoism. Watts articulated a fundamental human predicament, our tendency to confuse the symbol with the reality, the word with the thing. He spoke of how we live increasingly in a world of concepts, labels, and abstractions, treating these mental constructs as if they were the actual, vibrant, ever-changing flow of existence. This isn't merely an academic point. It's a description of a lived reality where we interact more with our thoughts about a person than with the person themselves, more with our idea of happiness than with the felt experience of joy, more with our concept of nature than with the sensory immersion of being in it. Watts, echoing centuries of Eastern thought, suggested that while the intellect is a magnificent tool for analysis and communication, it becomes a barrier when it attempts to grasp the whole of reality, which is fundamentally dynamic, interconnected, and ultimately beyond complete conceptual capture. The intellectual foundation here rests on the understanding that reality, in its deepest sense, is not a collection of static, definable things, but an indivisible process, a flow, which the dissecting nature of the intellect struggles to apprehend directly. In our current age, this ancient trap has become exponentially more intricate and insidious. We are drowning in an ocean of information. Social media bombards us with curated realities and endless comparisons. Algorithms feed us content designed to confirm our biases and keep us scrolling. We have instant access to data on everything, from global events to the nutritional breakdown of our breakfast. We are encouraged, even conditioned, to intellectualize every aspect of our lives, optimizing our routines, analyzing our relationships, quantifying our feelings with emojis, researching every potential purchase or decision to the point of paralysis. The digital realm is a realm of pure concept and representation, a universe of maps and menus. We spend hours navigating this conceptual space, gathering more and more data about the world, mistaking this accumulation for genuine engagement with the world. The urgency of understanding this trap now is paramount because the modern environment is perfectly engineered to keep us perpetually suspended in the realm of thought, further isolating us from the grounding, clarifying power of direct, unmediated experience. Let's delve deeper into this concept. The trap isn't knowledge itself, but our relationship to it. Knowledge is essential for navigating the practicalities of life, building bridges, healing diseases, organizing societies. The problem arises when we believe that knowing the name of something is the same as knowing its essence, that understanding the theory of love is the same as feeling love, that having a perfect mental model of reality is the same as being fully present in reality. The intellect operates by division, by labeling, by creating categories and distinctions. It takes the seamless unity of existence and chops it up into discrete bits of information. This is incredibly useful for analysis, but disastrous when we forget that the divisions are artificial, mere conveniences of thought. The duality lies in recognizing the intellect's power as a tool while simultaneously understanding its limitations as a means of ultimate knowing. The hidden truth is that reality is not a problem to be solved or a puzzle to be figured out. It is a mystery to be lived, a dance to be danced. When we are trapped in the conceptual mind, we are like spectators in a theater, analyzing the play's structure, critiquing the acting, discussing the themes, but never actually stepping onto the stage to participate in the drama. We miss the felt sense of being, the intuitive flow, the nonverbal communication that constitutes the vast majority of our actual experience.
Consider this. Imagine you are presented with a hyper-realistic, fully immersive digital simulation of an ancient old-growth forest. This simulation is a masterpiece of data collection and rendering. Every tree species is identified and cataloged with perfect accuracy. The topography is mapped to the centimeter. The sounds of birds, insects, and wind are recorded and reproduced with stunning fidelity. You can zoom in on the texture of bark, analyze the soil composition, track the simulated wildlife movements based on complex algorithms. You can spend years within this simulation, accumulating an encyclopedic knowledge about this digital forest. You can write papers on its simulated ecosystem, predict its digital weather patterns, even feel a sense of intellectual mastery over its intricate design. You know its statistics, its classifications, its underlying code. This simulation is the ultimate map, the most detailed description imaginable. Now, contrast this with stepping out of the simulation and walking into an actual old-growth forest. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth, decaying leaves, and unseen blossoms, a complex aroma that no data point can fully capture. The sunlight filters through the canopy in unpredictable patterns, warming your skin. The ground beneath your feet is uneven, yielding, alive with unseen microbial activity. You hear the rustle of leaves, the distant call of a bird, the hum of insects, sounds that aren't just audio files, but vibrations felt in your chest. You might touch the rough bark of a tree, feeling its texture, its solidity, sensing its ancient presence. You breathe the air, cool and oxygen-rich. There is a sense of scale, of immense quiet power, of being a small part of something vast and interconnected. You are not analyzing, you are experiencing. You are not knowing about the forest, you are in the forest. The digital simulation is our conceptual knowledge, incredibly detailed, useful for certain purposes, like planning a route or studying species, but ultimately a representation, a map. It can tell you everything about the forest, but it cannot be the forest. It lacks the smell, the touch, the unpredictable immediacy, the felt sense of presence, the ineffable quality of simply being there. When we are trapped in the conceptual mind, we are living in the simulation of life, accumulating data, analyzing patterns, building models, while the actual vibrant, messy, beautiful, terrifying, unpredictable reality of existence unfolds outside the screen of our thoughts. We mistake the perfect, controllable, knowable simulation for the wild, untamable, mysterious territory of being. And in doing so, we miss the scent of the earth, the feel of the sun, the taste of the rain, the raw, unmediated richness of life itself. The psychological mechanism underlying this trap is deeply ingrained in our human operating system. Our brains are pattern matching machines, constantly seeking to categorize, label, and understand the world to predict and control it. This drive for certainty and predictability is evolutionarily advantageous. It helps us avoid danger and navigate complexity. However, this same mechanism, when unchecked, can lead to a rigid reliance on mental models. We build conceptual frameworks, our beliefs, our identities, our explanations for how the world works, and then filter all incoming experience through these frameworks. Anything that doesn't fit is often ignored, distorted, or dismissed. The ego, in particular, finds comfort and security in these stable structures of knowledge. It identifies with what it knows, building a sense of self around accumulated information and intellectual prowess. To question the primacy of conceptual knowledge feels like dismantling the very foundation of who we believe to be. There's also a subtle fear of the unknown, of ambiguity, of the vastness of reality that resists neat categorization. We cling to our concepts because they offer an illusion of control, a sense that we've got a handle on things, even if that handle is only grasping a representation, not the reality itself. This cognitive bias towards certainty and the ego's investment in intellectual identity fuel the trap, making it incredibly difficult to step outside the realm of thought and simply be. Consider the case of Elias. Elias is a man in his late 30s, highly intelligent, articulate, and deeply interested in human connection. He has read extensively on attachment theory, nonviolent communication, the psychology of relationships, and the philosophy of love. His bookshelves are lined with titles like The 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work, Attached, and The Art of Loving. He can eloquently discuss the different love languages, the stages of relational development, and the neurological basis of empathy. Yet, Elias is profoundly lonely. He struggles to form lasting, intimate connections. In conversations, he often finds himself analyzing the other person's behavior through the lens of a psychological framework, mentally diagnosing their attachment style or identifying communication patterns. He knows about active listening, but struggles to simply hear another person without formulating his response or categorization. He understands the theory of vulnerability, but finds it almost impossible to share his own raw, unedited feelings without first intellectualizing them or framing them in a way he's read is effective. He knows about empathy, but when faced with someone else's pain, his first instinct is to offer a theoretical explanation or a suggested reading, rather than simply offering presence and compassion. He is so busy processing the interaction through his extensive knowledge base that he misses the subtle cues, the emotional undercurrents, the spontaneous moments of genuine connection that happen outside the realm of planned communication. He is navigating his relationships using a highly detailed map, but he is not truly with the person standing in front of him. He knows everything about connection, but he cannot simply connect. Does this resonate with you? This feeling of being intellectually equipped but relationally impoverished? The long-term consequence for Elias is a life lived at a distance, observing human interaction rather than participating fully in its messy, unpredictable beauty. His knowledge, intended to bring him closer, has become a barrier, keeping him safe in the realm of theory, but isolated in the reality of human experience.
Then there is Sarah. Sarah is on a spiritual quest. She has devoured texts from various traditions: Zen, Advaita, Vedanta, Sufism, Western esotericism. She attends workshops, listens to podcasts by renowned spiritual teachers, and can fluidly discuss concepts like non-duality, ego dissolution, mindfulness, and the nature of consciousness. She meditates daily, meticulously following techniques she's learned, aiming for specific states described in books. She uses spiritual jargon with ease, speaking of raising vibrations, aligning chakras, and transcending the illusion. Yet, beneath the surface,
Sarah is restless. She is constantly evaluating her experiences against the descriptions she's read, checking if she's doing it right, if she's progressing. She knows about surrender, but struggles deeply with control in her daily life. She knows about presence, but is constantly thinking about the past or future, or analyzing her current state. She knows about non-duality, but is acutely aware of the separation between herself and others, between her spiritual self and her everyday self. Her spiritual practice has become another field for intellectual accumulation and performance, a goal to be achieved through understanding and technique, rather than a process of simply being and unfolding. She is chasing the idea of enlightenment, the concept of peace, the description of liberation, rather than simply allowing herself to experience whatever arises without the filter of her accumulated spiritual knowledge. Do you ever find yourself intellectualizing your inner journey, comparing your experience to what you've read, using concepts as a shield against raw feeling? Sarah's devastating long-term consequence is a perpetual state of striving, a feeling of never quite arriving, because she is seeking a conceptual destination rather than recognizing the inherent peace and presence that is available in each moment, independent of her understanding of it. Her knowledge, meant to free her, has become a new set of chains, binding her to the pursuit of an idea. Finally, consider David. David is a product of the modern information age, a young professional constantly seeking to optimize his life. Before making any decision, no matter how small, he researches extensively. Choosing a restaurant involves reading dozens of reviews and comparing menus. Buying a new gadget requires hours of watching comparison videos and reading spec sheets. Planning a trip involves intricate spreadsheets comparing flights, accommodations, and activities based on user ratings and expert guides. He knows about productivity hacks, biohacking techniques, investment strategies, and the latest trends in everything from fashion to philosophy. His phone is filled with apps for tracking his habits, his finances, his health metrics. He knows about living well, about making optimal choices, about being successful according to the data, yet David is plagued by anxiety and indecision. The sheer volume of information is overwhelming. He fears making the wrong choice because he knows about all the potential pitfalls. He struggles to simply enjoy a meal without mentally critiquing it based on reviews he's read. He finds it hard to simply do something, like go for a walk or call a friend, without first thinking about the optimal time, the best route, or the potential benefits. He is so busy processing data about life that he is paralyzed when it comes to actually living it spontaneously. He knows about experience, but he rarely allows himself to simply experience. Can you relate to this feeling of being overwhelmed by information? Constantly analyzing, struggling to make simple choices, or simply relax without data or justification? David's long-term consequence is a life lived with the constant low hum of anxiety, a feeling of never being fully present, and a deep sense of exhaustion from the relentless mental processing. His knowledge, meant to empower his choices, has become a cage of analysis paralysis, trapping him in a state of perpetual pre-computation. These are just three examples, but the cost of this trap is immense and pervasive. It costs us our spontaneity, our capacity for genuine presence, our ability to connect authentically with others and with ourselves. It costs us the simple, unmediated joy of being alive. It costs us our intuition, that deeper knowing that bypasses the intellect. It costs us our peace of mind as we are constantly striving to understand, categorize, and control a reality that is fundamentally beyond our complete intellectual grasp. We become spectators of our own lives, living vicariously through concepts and information, rather than participants fully immersed in the rich, messy, unpredictable dance of existence. The hidden cost is the gradual erosion of our capacity for direct experience, leaving us feeling empty, disconnected, and perpetually searching, despite having all the answers right at our fingertips. So, If the trap is the over-reliance on conceptual knowledge, the path to liberation is not the rejection of knowledge itself, but a reorientation of our relationship to it. It is a difficult path, one that requires courage and a willingness to feel uncomfortable, because it means letting go of the familiar security of knowing about things. It is a path towards what could be called true freedom, not freedom from reality, but freedom within reality. The freedom to respond authentically to each moment without the heavy filter of preconceived ideas and accumulated information. It is the path towards true strength. Not the strength of having all the answers, but the strength to stand in the face of uncertainty and simply be. It is a return to the primacy of direct experience, a shedding of the layers of thought that separate us from the vibrant, immediate reality of existence. Here are some practical principles, some mental exercises to help you navigate this path, to loosen the grip of the conceptual mind and reclaim your capacity for direct experience.
The first principle is cultivating sensory awareness. What does this mean? It means intentionally shifting your attention away from your thoughts about your experience and towards the raw, unfiltered sensory input of the present moment. Instead of thinking, this is a beautiful sunset, you simply see the colors, the light, the shapes, without the label beautiful or sunset. Instead of thinking this coffee is too bitter, you simply taste the bitterness, the temperature, the texture, without the judgment too bitter. Why is this powerful? Because your senses are your direct connection to reality. They bypass the conceptual mind. When you are fully engaged with sensory input, you are grounded in the present moment, in the actual felt reality of existence, not in your thoughts or interpretations of it. This practice helps to quiet the incessant mental chatter and reestablish a connection to the world as it is before you overlay it with your mental map. How do you practice this? Start small. Choose a simple everyday activity. Washing dishes, taking a shower, eating a meal, walking down the street. For a few minutes, commit to focusing only on the sensory experience. When washing dishes, feel the temperature of the water, the texture of the soap, the shape of the plate, the sounds of the process. When eating, focus on the taste, the smell, the texture, the temperature of the food in your mouth. Chewing slowly, paying attention to the physical sensations. When walking, feel your feet on the ground, the air on your skin. Notice the colors and shapes around you without labeling them. The challenges you will face are significant. Your mind will constantly wander, pulling you back into thought, into planning, into analyzing. You might feel impatient, thinking this is a waste of time compared to productive thinking. You might feel silly focusing on such mundane details. The urge to label and categorize will be strong, but persist. Even a few minutes a day can begin to loosen the grip of the conceptual mind and open a door to direct reality. The second principle is embracing not knowing. What is this principle? It is the conscious decision to allow yourself to not have an immediate answer, explanation, or definitive category for an experience, a person, or a situation. It is the willingness to sit with ambiguity and uncertainty without rushing to impose a conceptual framework. Why is this crucial? Because the need to know, to explain, to categorize is a primary driver of the conceptual trap. It stems from a deep-seated discomfort with uncertainty and a desire for control. By intentionally allowing yourself to not know, you challenge the ego's reliance on knowledge for security and open up space for new possibilities, for intuition, and for a more fluid engagement with reality. You acknowledge the limits of your intellectual grasp and make room for the mystery of existence. How do you practice this? When faced with something new, confusing, or challenging, a difficult emotion, an unexpected event, a conversation you don't understand, pause before you jump to an explanation or a judgment. Instead of asking, "What is this?" try asking, "What is this like?" This shifts the focus from definition to experience. Practicing, "I don't know," when you genuinely don't, without feeling the need to fill the silence with speculation or borrowed knowledge.
When someone shares something complex, resist the urge to immediately analyze or offer advice based on what you've read. Simply listen and allow their experience to be what it is, even if you don't fully understand it conceptually. The challenges here are profound. You will likely feel discomfort, anxiety, even a sense of vulnerability or inadequacy. Our culture heavily rewards having answers and penalizes admitting ignorance. You might feel looking foolish or incompetent. The ingrained habit of seeking immediate explanations will be incredibly strong. But remember, true wisdom often begins with acknowledging the limits of our knowledge. Embracing not knowing isn't about being ignorant, it's about being open.
The third principle, inspired by the Taoist concept of Wu Wei, is action without outline. What does this mean? It is about engaging with tasks, interactions, and life itself by responding intuitively to the present moment, rather than rigidly adhering to a preconceived plan, a script, or a mental outline of how things should go. It is about moving from thinking about doing to simply doing, allowing your actions to arise naturally from the situation, rather than being dictated by a conceptual blueprint. Why is this transformative? Because life unfolds in the present moment, not according to our mental plans. When we are stuck in our outline, we are not fully present to the reality of what is happening now. Wu Wei is often translated as effortless action, but it's not about being lazy. It's about action that is aligned with the natural flow of things, action that arises from a deep, non-conceptual connection to the present. It allows for spontaneity, creativity, and a more authentic engagement with the world. How do you practice this? Start with simple tasks. When cleaning, instead of following a rigid mental checklist, simply look at what needs cleaning and respond to it directly. In a conversation, instead of planning your next sentence while the other person's talking, focus entirely on listening and allow your response to arise naturally from what you hear, rather than from a pre-written script in your head. When faced with a decision, sometimes the most effective action is not the one arrived at through endless analysis, but the one that feels intuitively right in the moment, after you've gathered necessary information. This requires trusting a deeper, non-conceptual form of knowing. The challenges will be significant. You might feel a loss of control, a fear of making mistakes if you're not following a plan. You might feel inefficient or unproductive compared to your usual structured approach. The urge to revert to planning and outlining will be powerful, especially in complex situations. But practice allowing moments of spontaneous, unplanned action. See what happens when you respond to the present reality rather than your mental projection of it. These practices are not easy. They will feel unnatural, perhaps even uncomfortable at first. The discomfort you feel is not a sign that you are doing something wrong. It is a sign that you are pushing against the boundaries of your conceptual cage. It is the sound of the bars rattling as you begin to challenge the dominance of the thinking mind. This friction, this awkwardness, this feeling of being exposed or uncertain, are necessary signals of growth, indicating that you are stepping out of the simulation and back into the raw, unpredictable, exhilarating territory of being. We have explored the subtle yet pervasive trap of mistaking conceptual knowledge for direct reality. How our intellect, a powerful tool, can become a barrier when it dominates our experience. We've seen how this trap manifests in various aspects of life, leading to disconnection, anxiety, and a feeling of living life as a spectator. And we've touched upon a path back to presence, a path that involves cultivating sensory awareness, embracing the discomfort of not knowing, and practicing action that arises from the moment, not from a rigid mental outline. The choice before you is profound. Will you continue to live primarily in the simulation of your thoughts, accumulating maps while missing the territory? Or will you dare to step onto the stage of direct experience, to feel the sun on your skin, the ground beneath your feet, the raw, unmediated reality of being, even if it means letting go of the illusion of having everything figured out? What does it truly mean to know anything, if not to experience it fully without the filter of thought? Explore more of this work here. The quest continues.